not using the corners of the short sides, which, we get pretty slack about that when we're online because we know that the cameras have tracking. If we're taking virtual lessons, a lot of times the instructor can't really see there. So, maybe we're cutting the corners a little bit. Ooh, and then, but then, you get in a show and you can really see somebody really cutting the corner. A lot of points lost there. Leaning in, especially at low levels, I see a lot of people lean in to get the canter depart, which means the horse leans in and cuts as a corner, which means he goes on his forehand, loses a lot of points there. So those are some real um, basic things that I see happen a lot. And I'm like, I think those are pretty simple. Even if you're at intro and you're kind of like, well, I know my horse is a little above the bit and I'm trying to keep him active and stuff. You can pretty much still go in the corners unless you're riding a really, well, we call them greeny chili beanies, but really baby horses that are really super green or something that really have trouble steering. Okay, you're cutting the corners because you can hardly get around anyway. But most of us are riding maybe, even like if you come in from another division, you've got an equitation horse or something. Like I saw a girl today online. I swear she was a quarter horse equitation rider. Beautiful outline. But she was trying to do the pattern and she really was cutting the corners and walked out of the hall type of thing too. So yeah, those are some basics.
I love that. And so to add on, so this was Misty's question that she sent in. Misty, did you have anything specifically as far as like markdowns that you've seen that you had questions about?
So one was definitely not using the corners, so that explains it well. So I'm dealing with the three just coming 4-year-old that
Okay.
sometimes there is a difference of opinion about which way we're going
Seriously, a difference
and
of opinion. Yes.
at what speed. So yes, and then some of the other things we're working on is that straight halt. It's really hard. They want to kick a hip out and move around a little bit. It's that halt that just stopped. So yes, those are the things that we're definitely working on.
Good. Keep thinking, Misty, about a lot of people don't know that in the middle of my life, in the very middle of my life, after I was a real well-established riding instructor, I had an opportunity to start horses under saddle. I still call it breaking. And I started many, 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 many horses under saddle. So I have ridden so many green horses, it would frighten you. And I started the last Trakehner stallion 4 years ago. What a nut job, right? Because I'm not young. Entertainers, they're hot and they're athletic, and oh man. And I was working for breeders. And green horses, actually, the less you steer, you can't imagine that you need to be absolutely centered on them, absolutely straight, your reins even and with the same tension. If you can keep their neck straight and you're even in your stirrups, because a lot of people's weight is not even in their stirrups, you can channel a horse right straight. And people are surprised that baby horses, if you don't mess them up, tend to travel straight. I see a lot of wobbly horses because I see the riders shifting back and forth. I think that would help you because that's a trick on green horses to be absolutely square, absolutely dead on. Your saddle can't be shifting and then right into it. And amazingly enough, I did say to my friend Joyce Swanson, I said, "You're on the test writing committee. I want to know why you let us at intro and basic, you let us do jog, walk into halt." Because I said, in regular dressage, even the baby horses, the green horses, they trot in, they halt, and they trot off. And if you teach a horse to do that as a baby, it's for a lifetime. They're in front of your leg. I really like it. And I hate the tests where I have to walk into the halt on the young horses. And those baby horses can actually do that halt, and then jog. And so even if I'm having to do those intro and basic tests, I teach my baby horses halt, jog, halt, jog, and jog off, because then when I get to the show, I practice a little bit the walk, but it's way harder to have a horse jogging and then walking and then halting straight. But
Mhm.
for a baby horse to go jog, halt, straight is so much easier. And she had
That's
said
some
to me, "Well,
good
I
tips.
thought it was easier for beginning
Yeah.
riders." And I was like, "Well, I don't care about the riders. I'm interested in the horse."
I think if I could rewind time a little bit, I would probably you don't realize how much they come to rely on a fence if you do a lot of fence work. So when you take them down the center of the arena, they're like, wait, where's my fence that kind of helps support me here? Where am I? Right. So I
Okay.
go
Yeah.
back in time, I would probably do more, work away from the fences. But yes, thank you. That gives me a lot to work on.
Cool. Great question.
Amazing. And then speaking on the jog here too, there is a question about Western dressage and what are you looking for? Are you looking for a slow Western pleasure jog or more of a
Oh my
ranch
goodness.
horse jog? I think
Yeah.
this is a really great question for Western
Yeah,
dressage.
that is a great question. We talk about this a lot, and especially we have so many people coming into our division. Welcome, everybody, and we're so happy they're here. But sometimes they come in and they're kind of a little belligerent, like, "Well, I have my job just down perfect," and of course, we're not maybe marking it the way they were expecting it to be marked because they've been maybe in quarter horse pleasure or something, and they've been kicking butt there. And we say to them, it says Western dressage, but it doesn't say Western pleasure. It doesn't say ranch either. That is
Mhm.
not what it says. It says Western dressage. And so if you read the description in the rule book, it actually says that it'll be an active jog. It will have a moment of suspension. It will have energy. And one of the concerns for us is that the working jog covers ground. And when the organizers that began this, educate us judges, they stand up at the judges' education forums and they talk to us. They go, if you need to explain this to somebody, we want you to talk to them about when you use a horse to travel somewhere in the West, you can't lope them all day long. So you jog them and you have to cover ground. So, when you were running after the posse with John Wayne, in those good old fashioned movies, and they didn't gallop the whole time, they didn't lope because the horse would be exhausted. So they jogged a lot and they would post or they'd stand up in their stirrups or they'd sit, but they're moving and they're getting from ranch to ranch and town to town and they're covering ground. And if you don't cover ground, you have nothing to collect because collection is the compression of the energy. And although the horses become easier to sit to, the reason that they become easier to sit the jog to is that their backs swing and their backs bascule as they take more weight behind and they elevate the thoracic. It's a biomechanical thing. It's not that you slowed them down. So working jog is a active forward working jog, and it's within the parameters of your own horse's conformation. So, for example, recently, Kim Depp has a really beautiful pinto or paint. It's a paint horse that she sent me a picture of it when it was a young horse, and it's in a horizontal balance because it was an intro and basic at that time. And that horse was doing the most beautiful jog, but it was really covering ground. And when we showed that photograph to all of our judges, they were like, all right, there's a quarter horse really covering ground, but man, that's just what they wanted. Nice big jog. When horses short track, and anybody that doesn't know what short tracking is, speak up. But when horses don't track up in the jog, their back isn't swinging, they're not biomechanically using themselves well. Unless your horse is unsound, every horse is capable of tracking up, or if it misses tracking up, we're talking about it doesn't track up by an inch or so. But horses that miss tracking up by 6 to 10 inches, no one wants to say the word lame. Okay. They're afraid of that. But how about unsound? There's something wrong with them because it doesn't matter if you have an Icelandic or you have a Tennessee Walker or you have a quarter horse or a thoroughbred or a Chicaner or a Frisian. All of those horses have different conformations, but biomechanically, they're able to come into a really active jog that comes very, very close to tracking up. And you need that if you're going to level 2, level 3, level 4, which is what Western dressage is about. So we're looking for a jog which is biomechanically correct for your horse within
Mm.
its conformation. So, you might have, let's say, a Lusitano, which is charting along really active, and it tends to be a little quicker and shorter in its steps, but its neck is kind of, it might be an intro with its neck like this. And then someone else comes in with a quarter horse that his neck is kind of like this, and it's trotting along, but it's coming closer to tracking up. Those two jogs look completely different because of the conformation of the horse. But the judges are looking to see, is the back swinging? How's the horse's balance? Is it on the forehand? And does it come relatively close to tracking up in the jog? That's their goal for you. And we're hoping that we can help get you educated and help you learn how to ride the horses this way so that it's easy for you because it's
Mm.
good for the horses.
Awesome. While we're on the topic of the jog, I want to go into a next question we had. So we had some questions about posting in Western dressage, and these
Oh,
are good. So one of them is kind of saying, is posting or not posting in jog an issue with judging in different levels? And then just basically, is posting at a working jog allowed? Like, why is it allowed in Western dressage? Because you don't see it in other disciplines.
okay. Well, let's talk about that. Well, and sidebar, because I also do dressage and I'm an S dressage judge. Hilda Gurney, who represented us years ago, California girl in the Olympics, and several world-class competitions, has been for years asking USDF and USEF, but United States Dressage Federation, if we couldn't be allowed to post in dressage. And there's a whole movement in regular dressage for people that believe that ergonomically it doesn't make, like, can we please post? It'd be easier on the horses' backs. A lot of people are aging out, their backs are compressed, they don't sit well. We might have better riding. So,
Mm.
FYI, it's not a thing to sit to the trot necessarily. There's an awful lot of people in the world that believe horses would be more comfortable if we were allowed to post. With that being said, we had we have some of the most enlightened organizers of this particular discipline in the world. Western dressage has a wonderful reputation for being open-minded, for melding together very correct work, for allowing wonderful dressage techniques with such an open mind because we have so much tack available to us, bitless, bosals, curbs, snaffles, whatever, we have a huge selection of things available to us. So very open-minded. And these are some of the best horse trainers in the United States that started this club. Amazing people. They happen to be interested in Western. They happen to have Western tack. They had experience in it, and they started us. As almost all divisions are, when you go to a quarter horse show and you go to the makeup ring at the Worlds or Quarter Horse Nationals or wherever, Congress, you're going to see a lot of people posting in the Western saddles on the young horses and the guys standing up in the saddles because they don't want to sit. They're bouncing. It's not comfortable. And
Mm.
nobody thinks anything about it. And because it's about the horses. So in Western dressage, we allow it because we understand that people coming in from other divisions may or may not sit. At low levels, we're allowing up through level 1 posting. So posting is allowed intro, basic, and level 1, the whole test. You can post unless a movement tells you to specifically sit, which none of them at this point do. So you can post. And we thought it was better for the horses' backs. We thought it was better for aging people. We thought
Mm.
children coming in that might be from English divisions, anything, whatever. We thought it was okay because it's okay for the horses. And quite frankly, it says Western dressage, but it's more about the old American West. It is not about quarter horse pleasure. It's about people got from train station to train station and from ranch to ranch. And, it might be a guy wearing a cavalry outfit in a McClellan saddle. I mean, it is not necessarily about stock work. It's about American West and about the idea of being wonderful, wonderful horsemen, looking after your horse, watering your horse before you sell, that kind of thing. Not that I absolutely have to have a roping saddle. So in level 2 through 5, you're now required to sit, and that was sort of following along with the idea of regular traditional dressage, that by then we ergonomically have the horse collected. And he should be able to carry his weight behind, so he has some spring in his hind legs, he has some spring in his back, he's lifting his thoracic, and that is what makes a horse easy to sit to. That's why we're supposed to be able to sit the trot in dressage by then, by level 2, because the horse is doing collected gaits, and collected gaits aren't slow. There's a joke about Pre-St. George, which is the lowest FEI level in dressage, that they're the fastest test any horse gets through. Why? It's because it's supposed to be collected, and it is, but the power is so phenomenal. It's like having a supercharger on your engine, and those horses are just woo, 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 and they get through that Pre-St. George test so fast, it's unbelievable. And the fastest ones are frequently the best because collection is about compressed power. It is not about slow. So the idea that you're going to sit the jog between level 2 and 5 is the idea. But there are a few movements in those levels that you're allowed to post. And one of them is the lengthen jog because they figure it's hard on your back. It's bad on the horse's backs. So you're allowed to post or you can sit it. And any other exercise within the test that they tell you specifically to post, then you post. At this time, it's only length and jog that you post them. That probably brings us around to saddles because I knew there was a saddle question.
There was a saddle question, yeah. So if you're looking for a minimal Western dressage saddle or just a Western saddle for Western dressage, what would you recommend?
Well, some of you know, but maybe you don't know that just this year, and I think it was was it March, February? Dana, it was early in the year.
It was early in the year, yeah.
I found natural horseman saddles, which is also known as contour saddlery, and VersaFit pads. So this is a company that has 2 or 3 brands of saddles, and they make literally like 20 or 30 styles of Western saddles for all different divisions for cutting and roping and dressage and Western dressage and working yak. And then they also make English saddles, which I just got one this month and cried when I got it because I thought I was getting old enough and having trouble sitting. And I thought, you know what? I'm aging out. I can't sit up anymore, blah, blah, blah. I didn't realize that my saddle no longer fit me. I lost weight and the saddle's too big. And I got into their saddle, which supported me and fit me. And all of a sudden, I'm riding around on the FEI horse going, wow, I just did 16 two-time changes. And 2 months ago, I couldn't do them because I couldn't hold my position. That's a nightmare. And I came in the house and cried, and I told my husband, I thought I was getting too old. And now I got my saddle's supporting me. I'm comfortable. I'm not moving around. I didn't realize that I was using all my core strength to keep myself stable in the saddle because I was flopping around in it. So these Western saddles that Contour Saddle makes for us, and we have several tiny short videos, which we'll send you later at the end of this call. We'll send to all of you the links where I reviewed their Deep Seat Light, which Dana rides in their Deep Seat Light, which is a very lightweight saddle, very short. They have minimal, there isn't much under your leg. The fenders are very small on these kind of saddles.
You can feel your horse's sides in these. I was very impressed because I had a cutting saddle before and I started taking lessons and I couldn't get my leg in the correct position for Western dressage because I was just fighting against my saddle because it was just a cutting saddle. It's putting me where I need to be for cutting, but not where I need to be for Western dressage. And I got in one of these and I was like, wow, to not fight my saddle and feel the side of my horse. And I think the big thing too that to touch on is the shoulder freedom it gives the horse with that VersaFit pad.
And this company spent about 5 years with very scientific data figuring out how horses have to move and putting sensors under saddles with riders and saddles and sensors under the saddles of figuring out where the horses needed shoulder freedom. And these VersaFit pads allow this. The horse's shoulders are completely free. I've never seen anything like it because even in dressage saddles, and I had mine fitted twice a year since 1988. My saddles have been stuffed and fitted twice a year by professionals, and some of the best in the country. I've spent thousands of dollars. I won't need that anymore because I have a VersaFit pad. And when my horse changes, I can readjust the pad to help with the saddle. And it will be amazing. And we use these under the Western saddles. They're little saddles, they're little Western saddles. Mine's about 26 to 27 pounds. It's very light, it's very short. I'm riding around in a little bit different version from Dana's. Mine is the Western Dressage Light. It's the stirrups and the fenders are almost the same. The cinching system's the same. You know, they have beautiful tooling and they have beautiful leather and the quality is all good. All of that stuff. We're not even mentioning that because we don't have to, because it's amazing. But on my saddle, the one thing that is different is being such a dressage queen, I really need my hands right in front of my saddle. I got a thing. They got to be low. My arms got to be triangulated and they're buried on top of my saddle pad as much as possible, which means that the swell and the horn have to be small. And that's the only thing that, well, two things Dana and I have compared is the swell on my saddle's a little smaller, it's lower, it's smaller. And the one other thing is she has what they call the deep seat, which her cantle comes right up around her and she says she can lean back on it. Mine has more like you would think of an equitation back on it, and it requires me to rely on my core just a little bit more. But either one of these saddles, they're very popular with dressage riders. And if you go to their website, and we'll send you the links in a follow-up email tonight, but if you go to Contour Saddlery and you type in my first name, Ida, IDA, they take 5% off anything you buy. You just type my name in where it says coupon, Ida, IDA, and they'll do things like the owner of the company will FaceTime with you to help you fit the VersaPad to fit the saddle to your horse. Anytime your horse changes shape, you can call them up again and get help. Their website is overwhelming with information. It's just amazing. I had to take it in small bits at first, I'll tell you, because the first time I went there, I was like, oh, wow, there is so much information and they're trying to train you so much that I would go in, I'd study for a while, and I'd come out. And
Yeah.
Dana's smiling. I think she had the same experience.
Yeah, but speaking of freedom of the shoulder, I want to roll into the next question, which is the free walk. So
Oh boy.
I was talking to Deb earlier, and this
Uh,
is a great question too, because what she's saying is what I worked in on my lesson this morning. So regarding the free walk, how do we get a more down and forward head and neck? Show a definite difference between the working walk and free walk, but I think, Deb, you said the comments that you're getting is your horse needs to be stretched down and forward more.
Yes.
Hi, Deb.
So-
Okay, well, let's take just a quick minute and go over what the requirements of the free walk again for anybody that, I mean, Deb probably knows because she's showing and you're already getting the comments, Deb, but let's go over it for the other people. So Working walk is that the horse is striding along, kind of an active walk and march rhythm 1, 2, 3, 4, and you don't want it to be sluggish. And you're hoping that your working walk is round, and we're just going to say it on the bit. You know, we're afraid of that saying that, but you know what? Get your horse on the bit because if you do, you get your horse on the bit, the scores go up. So on the bit, active walk, working walk. Now, when you come to the free walk, what should happen is you want to keep that energy. If the judges see the horse slow down, they've lost energy. So you're marching along, you want their neck to stretch over and forward and down. And you're looking for the ears to go below the withers, the top of the ears below the withers. Most people just let the horse go out and they're just strung out. They just stick their neck out towards somebody, and that's about it. They kind of stretch out. And that is a stretch, but it is not down because what's supposed to happen is the horse arches its thoracic, bascules the back, rounds the back up, and swings along, and you see the back swing in the back. And that's what makes overtrack. And they are looking, it doesn't say it's required, but they reward overtrack. And if you don't have overtrack, you don't get an 8, 9, 10. And you're
Mm.
lucky if you get a 7 if you have little and some stretch. So the requirements are that you're in 4-beat walk, that it looks energetic, that it's straight, it goes where it's supposed to, it keeps moving, but the ears go below the withers and the horse stretches over, down, and forward without curling. And then you're trying to get over track. You really, because when a horse only tracks up at the free walk, you get a 6-0. It's not even a 6-5, it's a 6-0. So
Mm.
you're this is your goal. So they're saying to you that they want him to stretch down more, right?
Yes.
Well, I got to be honest with you. Dana and I talked about this, and the techniques are something that like I would love to do a video review with you. And it's not expensive. You can take a video review with me and show me your tests because what we need to do is teach you the aids. It's a writing lesson. We need to teach you the aids to get the free walk stretch. And while that's happening, talk to you about where your body is, where your arm position is. And without knowing what your equitation is, I can say, well, like I'm going to say to you, yes, you have to get you have to get his neck down. But what we really need to do is teach you the aids, which
Okay.
is if I had a review with you or you took a virtual lesson, I'd work with you on what the actual aids are to get that. At this point, I know that you got to keep your leg on and you got to keep your back soft so that he keeps striding along. And then whatever half halts and whatever arm position you have at this moment, you're trying to lower his neck. What I think is missing is do did anyone ever teach you the neck lowering half halt? This is not everybody knows, not everyone has enough dressage background to talk about it like this. Has anybody talked to you about that?
No. No.
Okay. That's where we go in the riding lesson is we teach you the neck lowering half halt that you need. And this is the half halt that every time you give it, your horse goes, oh, that means neck down. And
Ah.
it's the same half halt that we use for the free walk. And aren't you getting the same comment in the free jog?
I'm not at that level. I'm only intro.
Okay, so far, but it's coming because you're going to come right up to basics soon, my dear. Oh, I'm all excited for you, but yeah, it's coming. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to do a video review with you, but that's what you need is you've got to get someone to help you with the actual aid of how to get him down and avoid curling. Easier
Perfect.
said than done.
I
Yeah.
love it. And speaking on basic, okay, I ride basic. I think it was Emily who sent in this question about basic, and this is so funny because I also worked on this today in my lesson. Basic test 1, how should the turn left at B and the following turn right at E be written geometry wise? And that's a great question. This is the hardest thing for me to ride.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not alone.
You're not alone.
Hi, Emily. Hi, Emily.
Hi.
Yeah, you just made her day because her writing lesson this morning, I was teaching her, and I was like, okay, what is seriously happening here in this test? It's the only time that her horse goes flying off the bit when she makes that turn. I go, that turn is your nemesis. Oh, seriously, girl. The rest of the test was looking pretty good until she got there, and he goes with his head. So, well, the geometry, of course, is that you're coming down the long side. So hopefully you're looking pretty straight. And you're, when you get to where X is, theoretically, your horse, you turn right and you absolutely bisect X. If almost as if they told you, halt at X and salute, so that half of your horses on the upper side of X and half of the horses on the lower side of X. Now, with that being said, my colleagues hate it when I tell you things that I let secrets out of the bag, but I have my coaching hat on tonight. I don't have my judging hat on, and judges, and you do too, if you watch your own tests, you can see that you have depth perception problems. On videotape is worse, but even live, we still have depth perception problems of whether you are actually at X or not. And that's why at the Olympics, there are two judges, one at E and one at B in dressage. They're side judges. Their job is to catch the depth perception problems for the horses that come up to X, and some horses have their girth at X and some horses have their hind feet at X. They missed X when they halted. And those judges are there to mark down to control that. So it's a little hard for me to be sure that you bisected X. But anyway, you're going to make that turn and go straight across X. And when you pass by me, because I'm at C, or the camera, the online judge, your horse theoretically in the center of the ring should be straight. So you made a corner, you're straight, and a corner. So it's ridden like a short side, that you make a corner, you're straight, and you make another corner. Now, what was happening to Dana was that she would begin to turn him off the rail and he'd go flying off the bit. And I finally just said to her, Dana, you did the most incredible 10 meters. She was working on 10-meter jog circles last week, and he was going around a 10-meter jog circle on the bit. And I'm going, that's way harder than what we're doing here. Talk to me about this, my girl. And what it boiled down to was, if she imagined that she was going to do the 10-meter circle, she got them all cranked together and she got it bent. And she's using her half halts, and she was using her inside rein half halt to ask for lateral pole flexion, which is, this is one of the things we teach in the riding lessons. When you take a virtual riding lesson, we work on this stuff. So she had asked for lateral pole flexion. She turns and looks around. She goes around the circle, and she said, well, because I know I have this circle, I have the horse clearly on my outside aids. She goes, I keep my half halt going on my outside rein, which he's supposed to be on his outside rein when he's bending to the inside. She had lateral pole flexion. She looks around the circle. I said, well, okay, but this is so much easier. It's only, when you turn to E, how about if you pretend that you're going to ride that 10-meter circle, but you don't finish it? You crank him together. You use all those aids. Are you saying to me that you forgot to use all those aids? And her answer was,
Yes. I was very inconsistent with that outside hand, and that's why he was throwing his head up. I was losing my connection. And I told you, well, when I do a circle, I know I have to have it because I won't make it around the whole circle.
Well, you're not alone in that either. I do that too.
But it was like that moment of like, oof, okay, I get it.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
it was an epiphany moment. And I said to her, I want you to go home tonight and write in your diary or write in your writing lesson. We have these beautiful journals that I've developed. Tell them about the journal, Dana, about writing in your journal.
Yeah, so that's not something I've ever done before. Then when I started taking lessons with Ida, she was like, you should really write this stuff in your journal, like right after your lesson so that you remember it. And it really does help me sit and reflect on what we just talked about. Um, and then I can go back and like remind myself of those things and just the little details that maybe if I didn't write down, I would not remember like in a week or so, but they're very, very important details.
We keep over and over reminding ourselves, and what she does is look at her journal before she goes out the next time to ride. Like I keep mine in my grooming kit, and so whatever I worked on, like 2 days ago, I told you I got 16 twos, and of course that was the most the horse had done in a row, and they're all clean. And I was like, there were exclamation points and there were hearts, and oh boy, it was fun. But then I'm keeping track of, in a few weeks, I will go back because I keep looking at that every day before I ride. Oh, because 4 weeks ago, you know what, I had written to myself that I was having trouble getting the twos. I couldn't get more than 7 or 8. And I didn't think the horse was strong enough and I should canter her uphill. And that's what I had written in my journal. And if I hadn't done that, I'm so busy teaching all you guys and answering questions and judging shows and judging online that when I do finally get to go out and ride my own horse, I'm tired because I've been thinking about your riding lessons. I'm staying
Mhm.
up nights going, oh no, I have to have Dana do this and I have to have Tamara do that. And so I don't remember my riding lesson, what I'm supposed to do. So that's written in the journal. And I did canter her uphill twice a week for a month. And that's why I got all those changes. So that even I use that. So having this kind of stuff to help you capture what you're working on, like even taking notes tonight, or luckily for you guys, this is on video and you'll be able to go to my YouTube channel. But
Yeah.
literally, if you rewatched it again in a few days and took notes and put it in your journal, you would be amazed. It really helps.
And so on the we do have Emily does have a second part about geometry, I think about the 20-meter circle at the basic level. You're struggling with the accuracy. You think that they're slightly too big, and do you have a way to explain where they should be, Ida?
Um, was that Emily? Emily, are you
Yes.
thinking that they're too long? Because, because you're this way, you're okay, right? But are you having trouble with them being too
So
long?
I'll give you an example. I usually ride them since I'm at basic level, in a short court. And so, for instance, like if it's a circle that's 20 meters at B or E, when I come to the other letters, which I'm forgetting right now,
It's
I'll
okay.
come
Yep.
all the way out and touch where basically the center line is parallel to the other letters. And I think that's a little bit too large. And I had some comments on my last test. Maybe I had written it just a smidge too large on some.
Okay.
Is that the correct shape, do you think? Or how, just if you could describe to
Yep.
me, like, I just
Yes.
want to hear
In a
from
20 by
what,
40. In a
yes, like
20
what it
by
should be.
40. Okay.
Yeah.
In a 20 by 40.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing. In a 20 by 40, um, you should hit X, you should hit the rail between B and M, and your horse should be on the rail about the length of a horse. So a horse's body from its chest to its rear end is about, for the average, for a 16 hand horse, is about 4 feet 5 inches. And if you include its neck, it's 6 feet. And you're gonna be on the rail about 2 jog steps because you're probably jogging, right? So 2, 3 jog steps, probably 2. And then you hit C, you gotta touch, so you gotta really cut the corners, cut them. In a circle, when you're circling, you do not want to be in the corner. So cut the corner between M and C, cut the corner, hit the rail at C. So then you've got, 6 feet over C, 4 to 6 feet, hit the rail, cut the corner, hit the rail again between H and E, pretty much centered. That horse is going to center right between those letters and then touch X. Now, if they're telling you it's too big, then they perceived that. So let's say you were on a left circle at C. You're going left. I'm thinking that you had the left side of you at X. And if I
Yes.
was coaching you, I would tell you that I wanted you to put your right toe over X. I don't actually want you to bisect it. And
Mm.
this is the depth perception problems that the judges have. So when we're doing that kind of a thing, I tell them, like, for example, we trained Dana just recently to do 10-meter circles. And when you do a 10-meter circle, and we just put out one of those cool videos that tells people this, that you don't put any of the horse over the center line on a 10-meter circle. If you're supposed to start at B and do a 10-meter circle, your toe on the outside skims over the outside of the horse. It's like tennis. If the ball hits the wall, hits the line, you're out. The only time you really want to bisect the center line is when they tell you that you want to be on it, and then your horse has to be absolutely in the center of it. Otherwise, if they tell you do a circle, the outside of you skims around it.
That was the best tip ever, is knowing that it's my foot that skims the outside of what I need. And especially too, Emily, if you're riding basic, for those like half circles back to the rail, like those loops back, and I think that's basic 3. That was super helpful for getting the accuracy to those, because I just remember my toe skims center line.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a really helpful thing to think about.
Yeah, I think you're gonna be fine. Like, you didn't it you have to cut the corners that they can see, and after the circle, go in the corner, and I mean, run it down, get out there so that
Go in the corner.
they can clearly see that you circled. And then, like, after C, like, let's say you're doing a 20-meter circle left at C, you cut the corner C, H, you cut it bad, almost like a diagonal, like you really cut that. Get on the rail between H and E, your toe skims over X, hit the rail between B and M, and then you cut the corner to C, get back on the rail, get your horse straightened out, and go in the corner, because they're looking to see that you go in the corner, you make a circle, and you go in the corner. They're looking for a difference, which people, they kind of don't get that. They're like, oh, I didn't think about it as they're judging a difference. And they are, because there's so few things for us to judge at that level. It sounds kind of weird, but the geometry is 33% at that level. You have very few skill activities. When you're at second level, you have to do shoulder in and backing up and all this stuff. You have all these skills that we're judging. But at that level, we're looking at how forward are you? How much impulsion do you have? How much on the bit the horse is, and how accurate you are. That's it. So it's very important. So geometry is those are always good questions. You have had good questions today.
They're
These are
great questions. To roll into that and like how things are judged, we do have a question about online judging versus live judging. And I think that's from Teresa. Teresa, if you're on, can you just let us know maybe a little bit more specific about the questions you had for online judging versus live judging?
Is she there?
Let me
Hi,
see.
Teresa.
Let me see if I can ask to unmute.
There, now can you hear me?
We can
Oh,
hear you
good.
now.
Hi, Teresa. How
Okay.
are you?
Hi.
Good.
I'm good.
Are you now? Tell me where you are in your judging career. Where, I know I'm supposed to know this, but I forgot. I'm sorry.
I have just submitted my online evaluation for my small R. I don't have the
Good.
results yet,
Good.
but it's been
Okay.
submitted.
Okay. Congratulations. That's a lot of
Thank
work.
you. Yeah,
All right.
it
You're
was, and
hanging
I
in there.
learned a lot. I
Mhm,
really have learned a lot. But one thing, I'm really
mhm,
interested in online judging.
mhm.
And so I spend a lot of time on Spotlight horse shows, looking at
Yes.
the videos, and
Yes.
you do get the final scores to look at, but you don't get the test sheets. So
Ah,
I was wondering, um, I was watching a video and evaluating it, and there was an error on the video.
Really?
And
Okay,
so
that
I
would happen.
thought, "Oops, I
Well, what
wanna
do I
blow my
do?
whistle." But
What do I do
so
about that?
so I was
Yes.
wondering what happens,
Uh,
when there's an error on an online show because you don't have the whistle to blow. So how is that scored?
Isn't that cool? Everybody's software is a little bit different. And some people's software, like I push a button right there and it says error. Other organizers have different mechanisms for us letting them know that there's an error. So when you know, because you're learning to be a judge, when there's an error, it can be an error of test, something like, for example, if somebody comes in and they fail to take their hand off the rein or forget to salute, that is an error. It does count as a cumulative error, and if you get 3 errors, you're out. So if it was an online and somebody forgot to salute, I would be like, okay, that's an error. Then I push the button that says error, or I write that at the bottom of the test, or I email the organizer, whatever you get that all organized with your organizers are all a little bit different and their software is different, but they all have a mechanism for errors. And you get that handled and you let them know that there's an error and that is taken off at the bottom of the test or is cumulative. The problem for us is if it's an error where they turned right and should have gone left, that's a nightmare for us online because we can't stop them. If they stop themselves and figure it out, like they actually turned left and then turned around and went right, you would mark them like in a live show. Well, they had an error, so there's an error. So maybe there's 2 errors. That's 2 errors. Didn't salute and went the wrong way, but they did correct themselves. Your problem is if they don't know that they made an error and they just keep going. By the time they get to the 3rd error, let's say they are going in the wrong direction and so they are actually off task, they will be eliminated like they would in a real show. That doesn't happen very often because most people review their tests. But amazingly enough, and I was talking to some colleagues that judged the online international. This past week, we were all visiting, and they were telling me their war stories of judging the online. And I actually just had this happen this week that somebody was going along in their test and they just left out a 10-meter circle. That was the only thing in the whole test they left out. It didn't affect them in the finish of their test because they just kept progressing. They left out the circle, but everything else was there. So they didn't even realize it. And they didn't realize it when they checked their test and sent it in. That's a whole nother ball game. That is an error, and you let the organizer know, and they take off the appropriate points, but they did not perform the movement, and they get a 0 for that. So that's kind of interesting. So it kind of works for you that you have to figure out, okay, is this an error of test, like didn't salute, okay. We got a wrong way thing going on, and if they keep that up, then they're going to be eventually eliminated because there's 3 errors. Or if they leave out something, but they're still going in the right direction and everything else is okay, they get an error and a 0. I actually have a number of people who consult with me. It's very reasonable, and I actually coach them in online judging. This is something I actually do. It's a very low fee. And what happens is I have you practice judging, and I just stand there as if you were apprenticing for me and make suggestions, try to correct your vernacular, um, let you have some more ideas about things. I sometimes assign people homework, things that I want them to look at or read about to um, enlarge their judging education. So that's actually a service that I provide. And
I would love that. That would be
yeah,
great.
you can always personal message me, and
Okay.
it's real easy to set up. It's just like a virtual thing. A lot of times we will look together at a YouTube video at the same time, and I just have you start judging, and then we talk about it. So it's a really good service, and people like it.
I would love it. That would be really helpful for me.
Great. You had great questions.
That was awesome. And so I think too, so one thing that we were saving for later, and I know there's two different people that had questions, was musical freestyle.
Oh, wow.
And that
You
always
can
comes
spend
up,
a
and I
whole
feel
hour just
like,
on that sometimes, can't
yeah,
you?
it's a big bear of a question sometimes, that musical freestyle. But I think Marcia, you had put down musical freestyle. Would you let us know what questions that you had specifically?
Yeah, thank you. I'm working on creating a musical freestyle. And
Okay.
so I guess I mean, I know what the required movements need to be. I'm a musician, so I'm totally cool with working on the music part. I guess as you know, someone either coaching, maybe since you have your coach hat on tonight,
Yes.
someone coaching someone to create a musical freestyle. I mean, I know I want to strive for flow and matching the music. I guess more in the technical things, is there anything that's different than I would be striving for if I was just writing a regular test?
Well,
What should
I
I
will
be
just I
aiming
will just
for?
tell you what I tell everybody, and since you're musical, I think it'll mean a lot more to you maybe than to other people.
Okay.
Tell me what level though. What level?
I'm writing intro. I actually am hoping to
Okay.
move up to basic soon, but I have a Tennessee Walker and we're working
Oh,
on the canter.
wonderful.
So
Okay, that's
we're
great.
not
That's
ready to
great.
canter circles.
I have the honor and the privilege of I have several people that I coach Tennessee Walkers, but I get to coach Tamara Steinbrecher. Do you know her? She's
I
amazing.
don't actually know.
Oh, you have to get to know Tamara. She is a major supporter of Tennessee Walkers, and she helps us promote gated horses in dressage. She's just a wonderful woman.
Okay.
If you haven't had a chance to see our series on gated horses and Western dressage, it's on
I
our
have watched that. Yep.
the
That's really
lady
good.
that's with us, Tamara. That's
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
she's nice. Oh, she's the nicest lady. All
Okay.
right. Well, let's talk about this a little. Um, to begin with, people are like, okay, I want to do a musical freestyle, and I always say to them, okay, it's a lot of work, but you know that
Yeah.
because you're a musician. But
Yep.
the thing that people forget is that musical freestyles are never successful if you don't win the technical.
Right.
They
Makes
suck
sense.
if the
Mhm.
technical is bad. There's no polite way of putting it. And the
Yes.
programs fall apart. So it's sort of like, you can have an ice skater out there and she's got this great costume and her music looks pretty good, but two falls and she's done. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, forget it.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
the technical part is really important. Now, people get all hung up at basic and intro, and because when they get down on the artistic side of the paper, one of the last parts is interpretation, dynamics, phrasing, and expresses the gates. And there's also the part of degree of difficulty. And they
Hmm.
start trying to fuss around with the difficulty score. There is almost no difficulty score, hardly, that you can do at intro, just very few.
Right.
What
Right.
I tell people is you need absolutely fabulous music. You
Hmm.
need absolutely fabulous editing. You're a musician, you're gonna have this all worked out. I
Hmm.
need choreography that is clear. I've got to have clear choreography. Then if you are a musician, then I can actually say this to you and you will understand because I do talk to a lot of people about this and they kind of don't understand. But I
Hmm.
say to them, okay, you got to get to the point where you can almost win your intro tests. You got to have the horse round and straight and square halts, and the technical has to be at least pretty good.
Right.
And then when you write this program, this now becomes a theater performance. You have to think of it like a dance or a play that it has a
Yes.
beginning and a middle and a finale. It has an end.
Right.
Now you understand about music with phrasing. For those
Hmm.
people that don't, but phrasing is it's musical sets of notes that run together that make a flourish, and music that's just background music, and you know what that is,
Mhm.
does not, you need to have musical flourishes around the movements to emphasize the movements. Now you know that, but I'm
Right.
saying it because you asked the question and
Uh-huh.
all the other people don't know this, but I know that you know this. But
Yes.
that mark at the bottom, that interpretation, dynamics, phrasing, and dynamics, you can also use the music lower and softer and louder and softer in order to emphasize the horse's gaits.
Mhm.
So you're probably going to be able to do all of this, but a lot of
I
people
hope so.
put on some background music. Um, Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Well, I'd be saluted. Like music
Yeah.
like that, then you
Mhm.
can do something with it.
Yeah.
And you can one of the things people don't think about is they just put a song on that I don't know where they get it. They probably pay for it, but they have a song and it just they they forget about looping. They forget that they can cut the music and loop it, that you don't have to
Mhm.
play through the whole song. You don't
Right.
even have to play through the lyrics of the song. Like you can just loop parts of it to because your trot across the diagonal needs to be extended 4 seconds more. Like if you're
Right.
a musician, you're going to get this. And you're going to be able probably to use the computer programs to do this, or you may be able to produce music for yourself.
Mm.
But you win by winning the technical. You need an you need a 7.5 to an 8 on the choreography, and how you get that is just that get in, get out before I get bored.
Okay. All right.
And I know that that sounds weird, but
No, I understand that.
when a judge looks down the paper and all of the required movements have been done, you
Mhm.
don't want to be in there more than 15 to 30 seconds more than that. You want to get out. The minute the required movements are done, get out.
Right.
And some people go wandering around for a while and repeat them. And what happens is that the second or third time they go to do something, it goes wrong. And so then your marks get averaged because the judging is you do a 20-meter trot circle to the right, and I give that a 7. And you go
Mhm.
do everything else, and I mark those. And you get to the end of the freestyle and you're still in there and you think, well, I'll just do another one. And then the horse goes, "Meow," looks at a plane or something, and I mark it down to 5.5 above the bit. And those two get averaged. And
Okay.
the score you get for the 20-meter circle just went down
Got it.
because they averaged those scores on the technical. So if you do something 2 or 3 times, unless they're all 7s and 8s, you're screwed because they're averaging those and then you get 1 mark for it. So when you repeat
Okay.
something, it has to be as good or better than the first time you did it. Otherwise, just take that score. For example, the first time I went to do an FEI freestyle, I knew that the horse I had got very, very nervous in the 4-time changes. The 3 times were great, but the 4 times weren't great. I was required to do 1 set of each. And really what I did was I put in only 1 set of 4-time changes because I was either going to get them or get a 4. And that horse was very nervous and a tense horse. If I kept repeating him, I'd go 4, 3, 2. Like it wasn't going to get any better. So I was just going to
Mhm.
take 1 4 and get out. And you have to do that sometimes when you're a competitor, you have a strategy. So
Yeah.
it's there's so much here and it's so complicated. You can see that sometimes people just call me just to work on this. They just call and we spend an hour just on freestyle because there's a lot going on
Mhm.
here and they have questions.
Yes.
A lot of times people will start, they will there's 2 ways to go at this. So you can find some music and put it together and try to write a pattern to go to the music.
Hmm.
Or you can write a writing pattern and cut your music to go with this. Have you
Right.
figured out which pattern you're using?
I'm trying it both ways to see which works better.
Okay.
And kind of experimenting, writing various things and like how long does it take me to do this circle or this diagonal or whatever.
People get really all hung up about the music. And the
Mhm.
only thing that's real significant, there's a couple of things. It does have to match the horse's timing. It has
Right.
to enhance them. It wants to look good with the horse.
Yeah.
But people get really hung up about, well, I have to make a statement and I'm gonna say, I have to use this piece of music, and that piece of music doesn't mean anything to anybody else. And it gets worse,
Mhm.
maybe they have one song that they just love, and then they can't find any other music that really is cohesive and makes a program, because that cohesiveness, or what they're getting at, is that your ride should have a theme. So,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, most of the judges that we're writing in front of are 50 to 80, and most of them are in their 60s.
Mhm.
So young people get exasperated with us when they have a set of music which we don't recognize the cohesiveness of it. Like, I had some music that one was a jazz piece, and then one was a rock and roll piece, and then there was a ballad, and this girl's in there doing this, and the timing was okay with the horse, but the music didn't go together. And she goes, "Well, that's the soundtrack from blah blah movie." It's
Uh-huh.
like Vin Diesel movie or something. I don't know. It's nothing. I never heard of it. I didn't
Right.
recognize the movie. I'm like, the music is not the same orchestration or the same. It isn't even the same genre of music. And I said to the girl, she got a really low under music suitability and cohesiveness. It wasn't cohesive. It didn't make a program. Now,
Mm.
for this type of judge at this age, if you had 3 Beatle pieces, they'd recognize it, 3 Michael Jackson pieces, 3 Herb Alpert pieces. But I also say to
Yeah.
people, look, it's got to slap the judges in the face. Whatever it is that you think your program is has to be so widely acceptable that it cannot not be recognized. That's
Okay.
because I'm also judging about 8 things at once. You're coming in, I'm trying to decide where you're going, what I think you're doing. I'm looking, I'm judging, is he on the bit? Is he round? Where's he going? I don't know your pattern. I'm judging the pattern. And while I'm doing that, I'm deciding if the timing matches the gait. How was the editing? Do I think I have a cohesive music thing going on? Are we using
Mhm.
interpretation? And I actually have to count how many times you use the phrasing while I'm doing all of that.
Yeah.
And so
So,
Emily also had this, not to interrupt, but she also had this question and she raised her hand. So Emily, do you
oh,
have
thanks, Emily.
a question?
Yeah, this is, I guess, an oddly specific question, and this has been great. It's the same question I was basically asking beforehand, but
Okay.
when you are building a musical freestyle, when it comes to the first halt and salute, does the music always have to stop, or can it continue when you halt and salute?
It's tacky if it does.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay. So, but here's the thing. Um, Most of us are using a computer to deal with this. So if it just goes, if you come in and it goes right on, um, I do, most judges take down a tenth to a 0.5, a 1.1 to 0.5 for that, because this is the justification for that. On the judging, when it gets down to the mark that says interpretation, dynamics, phrasing, and expresses gaits, we're counting how many times your music changed or worked with your program, that you used dynamics or fading or phrasing to emphasize your halt. If your music went right on, then you did not emphasize your halt and you failed to express this movement. That's what we marked you down for, and that's under artistic. That's why I don't think you should do it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah,
Now,
that's a good point.
here's your options though, because they tell us that we're looking for the music to emphasize your first halt, because that's your entry to me. That's your introduction, and your test begins there. I start timing it from that first halt. So then when you start your first exercise or your first movement, there should be another phrasing, dynamics, whatever, and anything else. We're also looking for the final halt to have a flourish, dynamic, or phrasing. And in a basic test, we're expecting there to be a minimum of 4 interpretive moments, that's 2 halts and 2 other movements emphasized by music. So there is actually a technical markdown for that. However, you could have used, like, if you want to use that piece of music, you can gently stop it. You can use a fade where it fades down and you salute for a couple seconds of quietness. And then if you want to go ahead with that music, you know, da 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 da, Oklahoma, here we go, and up it comes. So you can use fading, you can cut it, you can change music, you can look for a flourish, da 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 da, woo, and I just salute, and then something else. So you have options of what you do there, but your music was supposed to have supported that. This is the tough part for people for freestyle, is that, um, you know, basically, if you think about it, there's some aspects of choreography here, like a dancer, and there's some musical things going on here that we're talking about. How about the artistic part of, well, we're telling a story? The best one of the best, I'll never forget this. I was in Michigan at a big dressage show called Waterloo, and I see this little tiny pony come in the ring. Little girl with little pigtails down the back. She had little big bows on the pigtails, and she comes in with, "We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz." And she comes up and she salutes. And I'm like, I'm almost crying already. It's this little tiny girl on this pony. And then she starts out, and of course, this is just a walk trot. I think she did canter, like, but anyway, it's this tiny Shetland pony. And so the music is, we're off to see the wizard, and then she's trotting. So during the trot, it's the music that they play when, she's out talking to the cowardly lion. And it's kind of happy little music trotting along. She does a couple circles. And then when the canter comes, you can hear that's when the witch comes on remember the bicycle scene? And that was the circling at the canter. And of course, this little pony's like, because it was a little flat pony. And then they're walking. And when they're walking, it was when, remember, they fall asleep in the poppy field, and the little music with the little, and they're walking, and they're getting sleepy, and they're walking and everything. And she finishes up, the finale is like, that they come back together and the little people come and save them, and it's the little music for that, and it's a happy little ending. Oh my gosh. If you think about what she did, because at training level is like basic, all she can do is walk, trot, and canter, do a 20-meter circle, and do a free walk. That's all she had. But she took the story and she told it. That was amazing. And you're looking to see if you can pull off something like that. It's a lot of work, isn't it?
I love that. That sounds exciting for the freestyles. I think the last question that I had here, and I know, Linda, we talked about some of your questions like the dressage saddle and the posting, but the last one here was, should the canter be slower or less expressive in Western dressage than in traditional dressage?
Well, I think we covered that a little bit when we were talking about the jog, because it's exactly the same thing. We have some horses coming in from some Western divisions that have been slowed down for some pleasure work. But they've gotten to the point where the lope isn't always 3 beat. They've slowed the horses down so much. And they wanted them to have a very low headset for the divisions that they were in. So to begin with, your pole always has to be above the withers unless you are asking for a stretch circle or a jog, for the free walk or the jog or the free walk or extended walk. Otherwise, your pole is above your withers. And if you come in and you're coming right at me and I can see your horse's pole is, below the withers, it's on the forehand, strung out, downhill balance, needs uphill, isn't active enough, is on the forehand. You're going to hear this. And why am I talking about this? Because those horses that have been slowed and slowed and slowed, what they did was they made the horse drop the thoracic. They are in 4-beat canter and they are downhill. And so to begin with, the first spoke of the training wheel for Western dressage is rhythm, 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 rhythm. Do not harm the horse. Don't harm the horse. Because Western dressage is all about, can we elongate their life? Can we do physical work with them? We may use them for ranch horses. We may use them for regular dressage. A lot of us do extreme obstacles and we do trail riding, and our horses are used for a lot of divisions. But we're making them better for those other divisions by keeping them healthy and not ergonomically hurting them. We're trying to ride them in the correct mechanical balance for a quadruped. That's the goal, so that their lives are healthier, that they stay sound longer. So, does the lope get slower when it becomes truly collected? And collected is not what pleasure division says is collected, is just slow. Collected really is that the hind legs take a lot of weight, that they spring up and down. The lope actually has a more suspension. In collected, lope actually goes up and down and more ground clearance, and the thoracic comes up off the ground. And it becomes slower because the horse doesn't bound forward, but it bounds upwards. And you can flow it and you can speed it up and you can extend it because you have such control over this compressed power. So there's a misunderstanding in Western about the slow. It should be, are we looking for the horse to be easy to ride? Yes. Are we looking for it to be easy to sit to? We're hoping so, although we really have to talk about the fact that some horses' conformations are easier to sit to than others. For example, horses with really long lumbars and that are a little bit croup high are very difficult to sit to in the lope because their croups are high and they're always going to have kind of a long round canter, and that is their own conformation. So slowing them would be deadly for them. It would be very bad for their conformation, but that's not the easiest horse to sit to on a lope. And what dressage does is supple the back and ask the horse to lift the thoracic and develop the front and get it more uphill and get it more balanced so that that horse becomes easier to ride. That's actually our goal, is to improve the horse that we have. So for now, it's very important to keep in mind that if you're getting remarks that the horse is too much on the forehand, needs impulsion, that you don't the lope lacks clarity or rhythm is not clear or is 4-beat, that means that you don't have enough impulsion. You are going to have to go forward to repair the quality of the horse's gait. So ultimately, will your lope be slow? Yes. Is the lope generally tends to be a little slower than dressage horses? Well, I look at hundreds and hundreds of horses, and especially since Western dressage has so many more breeds in it than dressage is very heavy to just even one style of warm blood now. And they're all pretty much alike, and they're very forward. They're hugely forward. I get that. Are our horses that forward? No, but we have different thousands of different temperaments of horses. I shouldn't say thousands, but did we decide we had 60 breeds in the recently in one of our big shows? That's a lot more breeds. So we have a way larger variation of what the lope will look like based on the horse's temperaments and their conformation. Please don't focus on the speed. It's deadly to you and bad for the horse. Work on the quality of this lope and your control and your comfort and have fun.
Yes, and have fun.
I look forward to hearing from you again. We're wanting to do this. We're thinking maybe once a month for now, and maybe more frequently later. So let us know later on about how you feel about that, and if you think you'd like to join in. And we really appreciated having a few of your questions ahead of time. It just gave me time to think about, hey, what's the most important part here? So thanks for that. Until
Yes,
next
let
time,
me
thank you. We
Yes,
really
thank you,
appreciate it.
Ida. And thank you everyone for
Thanks very much.
joining. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you so much for being with us. Bye-bye.